all right, so now I was able to place that the ark had been used to open the Red Sea, and then open the Jordan, and then later it's used to make the walls of Jericho fall, and then eventually is placed in the Temple of Solomon in the Holy of Holies, and is actually the center worship of all of these Israelites. Today, the rock on which the ark used to be in the middle of the Temple of Solomon is under the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, which is controlled by Islamic tradition. So the Islamic tradition actually are controlling and consider that place a very holy place, because it said that that Muhammad ascended from that central place in the Temple of Solomon. So now you've got Islamic tradition and Hebraic tradition crossing over at the Ark of the Covenant. And these people have been fighting for so long. And so I continued to study, and something opened up. There's a whole set of information that opened up that we are not going to be able to go through tonight. We're going to go through some, but that leads from the Egyptian to the Hebrews to the Muslim to the Templars to the Middle Age to modern age to America, and right to the $1 bill. And that set of knowledge has been leading and powering our governments for a very long time. I think there is much more to what's going on that has to do with the search for this power. Eventually, I came across these things. They're called the Copper Scrolls. Again, Edgar Casey, interestingly, in one of his esoteric reading, mentioned that scholars were going to find in the 70s, or I can't remember when, scrolls from a hidden society along the Dead Sea. Nobody really believed it. Scholars said, well, we know pretty well everything that was around there. There's no reason to believe there would be scrolls there or things like that. And sure enough, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, hidden in caves near Qumran. And a whole society of priests that were unknown until then to scholars, and that seemed to have been very reclusive, very hidden society. In those Dead Sea Scrolls that were found in those caves, there is one set of scroll that was completely different than the other ones. Why? Because they were written on copper, not on typical hides or papyrus or anything like that. They were written on copper, and when the copper of these scrolls were analyzed, it was found that it is the purest copper ever found on earth. All right? And when they decoded these scrolls, the way the scrolls are written, they're written backwards or upside down, so that you were supposed to roll clay around them and then unroll, and then you'd have the clay tablet, which would have it right side up. But when they opened them, they didn't realize that, so many of them cracked. So anyway, they decoded them, and they found that the text on the scrolls describes the Ark of the Covenant coming to the Essene community of the Qumran region. The Essene that wrote these scrolls say to have had possession of the Ark of the Covenant. And it described 64 components of this that needed to be around the Ark in order for everything to be okay. So there's all sorts of components that have to do with oils, that you anoint yourself before you walk into the ark room, with incense that has very specific herbs that you need to cleanse yourself with before you go into the ark room. All sorts of components that came with the Ark of the Covenant. And not only does it describe these 64 components, it says where they hid them in the mountains near Qumran. When these scrolls were found and made public, it scared a lot of scholars because they thought, oh my God, this is like a treasure hunt. People are going to try to come and dig everywhere. And, so there was a lot of publicity that these scrolls, although they were from that period of time and found with the other scrolls, may have been a hoax that was perpetuated then. And, just to throw everybody off, this was unlikely for many other people, and basically they were trying to discourage people from going to dig around out there. But a person was allowed to dig, and this person went through the channels. Is called Wendell Jones, and he dug in the Qumran region and eventually found one of the first item on the list, which was the oil that you had to anoint yourself, which increased conductivity on the skin, by the way, in order to go into the ark room. And Wendell eventually found a second item as well, based on the description that he was reading from these scrolls, and going into using the clues and finding them in the Qumran region. So let's take a look.
Wendell Jones is respected here and abroad as a credible Torah teacher. He has been featured as a speaker in Orthodox synagogues nationwide, and has represented the Israel Foreign Ministry in a 2-year lecture forum on college panels in discussions with PLO representatives. Wendell was contracted by the Israeli government to write for their academic courses for tour guides at Hebrew University. In 1952, Wendell came across a news story that was to change his life. It was the account of the discovery of the Copper Scrolls. He was plagued by the realization that there were many anti-Jewish statements in the Gospels, and some were, as the marginal notes stated, omitted in more ancient manuscripts.
Did not surrender to be a preacher. I felt like I wanted to approach the Bible scientifically.
It is so fitting that the Shemen Afar Shimon should be the first item found from the days of the temple. When the pilgrims were ascending to Jerusalem, before they were in view of the Holy Temple, they would smell the fragrance of the Shemen Afar Shimon. The pilgrims knew that shortly they would behold the glories of Beit HaMikdash in the holiest of holy cities, Jerusalem, in the land of Judea.
Jones has been scouring the ancient caves of Qumran for the past quarter century.
The news of this discovery soon broke internationally, with coverage from CNN, CBS, NBC, and ABC. That following year, the October issue of National Geographic featured the find, followed by the December issue of Omni magazine, and countless other news sources carried the story worldwide. In the spring of 1992, the authenticity of the Copper Scroll was further enhanced with the discovery by Institute teams of a silo in the bedrock containing some reddish material, organic in nature. It was analyzed by the Weizmann Institute and 2 departments at Bar-Ilan University in Israel. The testing indicated the reddish material was a compound of 11 ingredients found in the Ketoret.
I have absolutely no doubt this material is Pitum HaKetoret.
This was the Holy Temple incense.
If we continue to find the items listed in the Copper Scroll and continue to locate them in the order that they're listed in the Torah, then the next thing we should find is the ashes of the red heifer. all things will be restored, as even the Torah that Moses broke. Remember, he placed them back into the ark, and God restored them. Moses wrote a Torah like the stones in the ark. Christian art has pictured the Torah as two tombstones, but that's not how they're described. In the book of Exodus, chapter 32 and verse 15, we read, "And Moses went down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of testimony." In Hebrew it reads, luchot, not slabs, but sapphires. These were dihexagonal shaped like the sapphire molecule.
That last part is really important. Is revealing information that doesn't quite match the Christian interpretation of the Torah, where Moses is not said to have come down from the mountain with tablets with the 10 commands on it, but actually sapphire type or crystalline type of structures that were hexagonal in nature. When a guy like me hears stuff like that, the fact that Wendell Jones has been able to find and locate these things in the mountains of Qumran supports the concept that the ark was a true object. That this is not just some crazy story from an ancient book, but actually that this really happened. And that the civilizations or the communities at Qumran had access, in any case, had at one point or another the Ark of the Covenant in their midst. Now, how could that be? Well, it's found that, imagine that you had an object of extreme power in the center temple, and this might make you understand a little more why all these wars have been raging in that section of the world for so long. Imagine that you had this amazing power, this amazing object at the center of your temple, but that your town, your city, your defense system could fail. And this object could fall in the hands of other civilization that wouldn't necessarily understand how to deal with it. You would have, I'm sure, an exit plan, a B plan. And I believe that their B plan was they had a community of high priests fairly far away from the temple, that where high priests were constantly being trained in the order to be able to handle the Ark of the Covenant. So that if anything happened at the temple, the Ark would be swiftly taken out through underground tunnels, and many of them have been found now, that would bring them out of the city and bring it to their temple, to their place, so that they could handle it there and keep it safe. And that might be why no writing about that community was found by scholars for a very long time. Nobody knew they were there, either than this Bedouin that threw a rock in a cave, heard a pot break, and thought there may be something in there, and eventually found the Dead Sea Scrolls.